Hey, I am so happy to see your sweet face, Andrea Siebert. Andrea is someone I have known for a few years. I feel like I've known you my whole life.
Right.
Andrea is a vision coach, a life coach, helps people with goal setting. Andrea is someone who I felt like the second I talked to you, you have known me my whole life. It's like, you know what I think before I'm thinking it. You know exactly what I need to hear in order to get me to the next level. And I wanted to bring Andrea on today, particularly around the new year, because I keep hearing this constant theme from my patients, from my clients, and it's this love of slowing down this time of year, or feeling this need to like hibernate and really enjoying that quiet time, especially post holidays and the running around and the stress. And then also almost this like feeling that we're supposed to drop right in tomorrow, January 1, January 2, and like hit these goals that we're setting for the new year. And I think what's really important is that we embrace this quiet downtime and really listen to it. And Andrea, you're one of the people that has really taught me to understand and to listen to that intuition, because it's actually going to serve me so much later when I do get back on, as I would like to call it. So thank you for coming on. And I know everyone's just going to love hearing your message.
Well, thank you for having me on. And I feel the same. I mean, I met you. It was just like an instant just love for who you are and the message that you're trying to put out into the world, of balance and health and just grace for who you are and love who you are. And so I love what you're doing. And thank you for having me on today.
Sure. All right. So we wanted to talk really about leaning into being present. I think that's the great message that I feel when I'm hearing these people saying, oh, I'm loving this quiet time with my family and my home, but it feels weird. Like, should I be doing this? Am I not doing enough?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I want to start off with like a little bit backstory. It was about maybe 8 years ago, and I was working in an office and I was coaching clients, and one of the things that I saw happening all the time was, we have to teach about how to get through the holidays. Get through the holidays. We're sick because of the stress. You know, everybody is like running themselves ragged. And I just like sat there for a minute and I was like, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right at all, because the holidays are a time that we're supposed to be having more time off, right? We're not working. So why are we filling our schedules so much because we're not working, right? What is this desire that we have to be busy all of the time? And I realized that we find a lot of our self-worth from being busy. And when we're quiet, what happens? Like for me, thoughts creep in, right? What have I not done well? What have I, maybe didn't do at all? Like all these things, all these loose ends come into my mind when I have quiet time, because I've been so busy that when I do get quiet, all those thoughts bombard me. So I do anything I can to stay busy, right? That's kind of like what's happening in the world. And so I decided I want to start being comfortable with just being. And honestly, it takes practice, because in the beginning you're like, what do I do? What do I think about? Like, I need to write this stuff down, like, and just like it happens. And I would say embrace that, because allow it to come out, right? Allow all those thoughts to come out, whatever avenue you need. Write it down, go for a walk, like embrace those thoughts, because that's really your body, your mind communicating with you. And listen to those things. And sometimes those things you won't like hearing, and sometimes those things are like, wow, that was mind blowing. I needed to hear that. Wow. So I would say I really started teaching people how to just sit and be, but you're not trying to turn your brain off. You're letting your mind just like go through all of the thoughts that you have. And when you clear through that, then you actually get to be sitting in peace and you feel comfortable with me, right? Where you can sit and be and say like, wow, yeah, I did an amazing job here yesterday, and today I'm just watching Netflix. Or I'm just going to stare, like right now, I gave my sister the task to just sit every morning with her cup of coffee and just look at the Christmas tree.
I love that. That's similar to one of the assignments you've given me, and it's been amazing. Like I still call it my power hour. I get up, as you know, 4:40 a.m. to have that me time, because I need to have my slow morning. And so I get up extra early so I can enjoy it. And that time, no joke, used to be spent with a computer, a planner, a notebook, writing my affirmations, writing my to-do list, organizing it. And now I literally sit there with my cup of coffee, and if I feel up to it, I stare out the window and I let my mind go.
Yeah.
For me, it still is an exercise, and I 100% agree that, you know, sometimes those thoughts that come up for a lot of us, they're going to be our most negative thought, especially first thing in the morning when our subconscious is super active. So is it frustration? Is it anger? And, you know, it can be different people or situations, but what I've really worked on is noticing what's the common theme and what's that emotion that I tend to draw to in those quiet moments. And so noticing it and almost like assigning a word to it. Okay, it's frustration or it's anger, and it's about the to-do list or the tasks or the people, but it's really that emotion is mine. And so working on that has been really big for me. But that quiet space is what's allowed that to happen. And now for me, it's turned into a muscle, like almost like a training of just staying in the present moment. So now for me, when I have that coffee and I'm staring out the window or at the lights or whatever, and my mind drifts, I now work on bringing it back into just what's right in front of me. And that is what's allowing me to be present everywhere else in my life so much more easily.
Yeah, present time consciousness is something that's really important, because when we're not present with where we're at, we miss so many things right in front of us, right? We have so many blessings and so many things that bring us joy right in front of us. But if we're thinking ahead 2, 3 days, months, however long ahead of us, we miss it, right? Busyness actually keeps us from joy, which is really interesting, because I do feel like the world right now is very addicted to busyness. So it's like we're afraid to be quiet because that feels scary, but it's also stealing our joy at the same time.
It's so interesting. I was listening to an audiobook this morning, and the woman literally said, busy is the new I'm okay. So when someone says, how you doing? Whereas before we'd say, oh, I'm good, I'm okay. Like that general term, she said, now it's, I'm busy, but it's good. Like busy is just that's like our normal kind of status.
It is. And it's interesting because it's like, why do we feel like busy makes us important? You know, it's an interesting thing to dive into. But really that's not the piece that's important. It's, why are we uncomfortable with just being? Why do we feel that we're less worthy if we're just being? Right? And I don't know if it has something to do with, you know, our to-do list that we've gotten so caught up and we have all these things we have to do. And if we're just being, then we're not getting things accomplished, right? Is it the instant gratification that we're so used to having right now? So if we're just being, what is giving us that outside instant gratification? But how amazing is your time in the morning now when you just get to be, that is instant gratification now, because you've now become used to it.
Definitely.
And we can find our joy in being present every day and what's around us in that moment. Anxiety and depression tend to fall away, right? Because if you look at a busy schedule, a lot of times we look at our schedule and go, okay, at 6 o'clock I have this, at 6:30 I have this, and you're going down your list, and what happens? Anxiety creeps in. But if you're just being present, there's no need for the anxiety to creep in, right? And so
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so we can actually reduce the amount of stress and anxiety we have by just being present and not looking forward, like looking into our future and what we have to do.
Yeah. I have found too, by nailing that in the morning, even if it's 5-10 minutes of it, but starting my day with basically sitting until I get myself in that present moment and I spend some time in it. You know, my head will go, okay, what I have emails, or I should check Facebook, my posts, and I need to write this down before I forget it. Nope, it's all going to be there in a minute. So just stay here for a little bit. It again becomes easier to access that throughout the day. So if I'm bumped into something that could cause me, you know, anger or stress, or, you know, someone yelling at me in the line or honking at me in the car, I can quiet my mind easier and stay in that calm, balanced state.
Yeah. There's this great book called Letting It Go, The Pathways to Surrender. And when I first ordered this book, I was like, oh, I'm really excited to read it. And I got it and I was like, this book is heavy. Like, it weighed a lot. But like, it weighs a lot because it is kind of a heavy book. But what it talks about is that we can have, and this is probably my own type of analogy, right? That I like to do things in analogy. So if you have a fire or a bonfire, right? So if you have a lot of stuff you haven't dealt with and you have the schedule that's really busy and you're never doing anything to release it, you build a bonfire. And what happens when you throw a flame on a bonfire? It explodes, right? So think about that emotionally. If you have a ton of stuff built up inside, then somebody, say, cutting you off, you're going to have an explosive reaction. But if you work on just every single day, just releasing something, little bits of something every single day, then we have a small fire. So when somebody cuts us off, our reaction is like, that wasn't really great, and I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, because who likes to have big reactions?
Right. It never feels good after the fact.
It never feels good. It feels good in the moment. Yeah, a little bit sometimes in the moment it can feel good, but afterwards you're like, oh man, I did not show up as the best version of me there, especially if you have your kids in the car, right?
Yes, totally. Or if you happen to cut someone off and then you see that you know them. That's always
right. That may or may not have happened in our lives.
Right. May or may not.
May or
So
may not.
one of the things that you've said that I love is that during the holidays, it's a time that you say no more than any other time. And I think that's so impressive because so many people tend to overdo. So how have you gotten to that point and what does that look like?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite things, and I've implemented this for myself. So, and I think people almost are getting offended in my life because they'll say, oh my gosh, how was your holidays? And they're expecting me to say,
busy,
so busy, crazy, I'm not ready. When I'm like, oh my gosh, so relaxing. They've been amazing. So, that's right. And they're like, huh, like they don't know how to respond to me.
Pattern interrupt, yeah.
It's a total pattern interrupt, but it's the truth. So basically what I decided is years ago, I created this teaching, which was called the power of saying yes, which means I'm only going to say yes, because back in the day, I was not good at saying no, right? So I had to reframe it for myself of I'm only going to say yes to the things that bring me joy, build me up, strengthen me, keep me on my path, right? Keep me in alignment to who I'm trying to be. And so I only say yes to those things. Well, because I'm very much an introvert with a little part of extrovert, the Christmas holidays were filled for me with Christmas party after Christmas party after Christmas party, with cookie exchanges, which we don't even eat cookies, right? To all these things that aren't really a part of my life, but my community says we should do them. And so I decided, those don't fall into my yes category, which means I'm not going to go to them. And so my husband is very extroverted. So I was like, look, honey, you can go to any Christmas party you want. Here are the two that I'll go to with you. And I just set it up that way. We don't do cookie exchanges. We don't do any of those things because it just is busy work for me. But what we do is we then say, well, instead of the cookie exchange, what do I do that fills me up? Well, we pick a family to support during the holidays. So we support them anonymously and we give that way. So at home, I'm wrapping presents, I'm, doing things for them, and then we're giving them to the person to deliver them. That's so much more fun to me than a cookie exchange, right? So that's what works for me. And so my Christmas holiday basically looks like the week of Christmas. No phone, no computer, really. I don't work at all. The only thing I'm doing on computer is watching Netflix or buying something on Amazon, right? Things that bring me joy, right? Maybe listening to some podcasts, but really not. Like I'm really shut down the whole week of Christmas. You might text me and I won't get back to you for 3 days. And people come to know that that's what happens for me during the Christmas holidays because I'm not busy. I'm in my PJs. I'm watching movies, doing a puzzle. I do a lot of puzzles over the Christmas holiday because I love them. I'm doing things that make me feel better, and I'm not doing a whole bunch of information downloaded. Where what I'm doing is I'm just being quiet. And so I think was yesterday Monday? Yesterday you Voxered me, and I think I verbally processed at 100 miles an hour because I'm like, today's my first day back in the world, and I'm like ready to take on the world because I have filled my tank. I am so full right now from that week off that I'm like, bring it. Let's do this. 2020 is going to come in, and I'm like ready to go.
Same. And it's because, again, you leaned into that being present, that present time that your body craved. And now instead of being tanked and having nothing left to give, you were present and your body asked for. So, okay. So let's talk about taking from there. And then, you know, for people who do like to enjoy that quiet time, but might have a fear of being stuck there and then not moving forward. I know you talk about failure as feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so failure feedback is one of my favorite things to say, because so many times we look at failure as something to be ashamed of or something negative. But really, feedback or failure is just feedback or information, right? And so a lot of times people are like, I don't even make goals because then I just feel like a failure when I haven't achieved that. But if we look at goals as something that we say, okay, I'm going to set these goals because these sound good for me. And then in 3 months, I'm going to reevaluate. And then I take those things that I did accomplish, and it's like, yay, that's so amazing. And then I look at those that I did, and I look at that as feedback. So a perfect example of this is a lot of people set weight loss goals in January. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, I'm gonna eat this way, I'm gonna exercise, like I'm going all in. And then, you know, 1, 2, 3 months into it, the scale hasn't changed. Is that failure? Or is that just feedback, right? Maybe that person did exercise, eat everything perfect, and they didn't lose any weight. And then they're like, I fail, and then they just give up, and then they move on, and then they repeat every January. Well, that doesn't feel good in our heart, in our soul, in our mind. That feels like, wow, I just fail every time. Or is your body saying, hey, in these few months that you've been doing this, I've been fixing things you can't see. Because we know, scientifically know, that the body will heal in the order in which it deems important, not in what we up here think is important. So who knows?
And the body will heal.
Yeah, the body will heal in the order in which it deems important, not what our mind thinks is important. And that's so important to know and understand, because what we don't know is that in those months that you were setting that goal of health or weight loss, what did it fix, right? Because it might not have reflected on the scale, but internally, I promise you it has. Mm-hmm. But because that number that you set didn't shift, you may give up, because failure to you is not information, but failure is a point of being ashamed, and it's a point of quitting, right? So if we look at all the failures, what we call failures in our life, and we use it as information, and then we get to shift in what we're doing, how much more successful will we be down the line, and how much less shame will we have?
Absolutely. Love it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. So do you set New Year's intentions or goals or words?
Do.
I know a lot of people this year are doing a word. I love that.
Yes. And I set a word. I've set words now for years. And I'm very careful with what word I choose, because your word can be something that brings a lot of great things, or your word can bring a lot of challenges, right? So I'm pretty careful. But
what would an example be?
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, what everyone says, never pray for patience, right? Because then you'll get every single thing in your life that will teach you how to be patient.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really, really careful. And so last year, my word was rooted. And what it did is it showed me every area of my life that I wasn't solid in my foundation. And the funny thing is that, you know, I do coaching. So I coach docs on protocols. And here's what I found out from my word from 2019 is I am addicted to protocols. I will change my supplement regimen based on who I'm talking to, because it sounds fun. Oh yeah, that sounds fun. I should do that, right? So I was like, holy cow, I may have a slight addiction to variation, right? Mm-hmm. I might have a slight addiction. I'm okay with this addiction right now, but I'm not sure it's serving me in some areas of my life, right? Yeah. And so my word for 2020 is step in. So one of the things that 2019 showed me was that I have a lot of things I want to say, and I'm going to step into that. You know, and it started for me in October. I just want to share a message, right? A message to the world of, you want to do balance. I really want to do grace and joy, right? Because we're so hard on ourselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're so hard on ourselves. And, you know, if we could give ourselves a little grace and just experience the joy that we get daily, then our life is just so much better, right? It's just so much better, and it's so much easier to live in that than in unmet expectations.
Yeah.
And
well,
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, just even the way that you described that your word rooted, you know, it showed you all the areas that you weren't. So just, you know, one of the things that I love about you and how you see people and situations is that you didn't look at that like, oh my gosh, I asked for rooted and why didn't I get rooted? It was like, oh my gosh, I asked for rooted and look what the world showed me. And
Mm-hmm.
you're so amazing at, you know, I know your lens is joy and grace, and you know, working with people and showing us or them or everybody these pieces of us that maybe we think are weaknesses or hold us
Mm-hmm.
back. And you're like, no, look what that's doing for you. And this is how you use that. And
Mm-hmm.
I know you're teaching a retreat in February, which if anyone has the opportunity, write down this website. What's the website for your retreat? If anyone has the opportunity, I want them to jump in for this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, so it's naturallybraveretreats.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to do retreats because how many people out there are like, I want to do all of these things, and then world just distracts you. And you're like, I know I want to do these things, but they sit over here, right? And you're kind of alone in those things. And you're like, yes, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. I want to. And you just don't ever get to it. Well, a retreat is an immersion with a community. I'm so big on community, right? Because I do believe we were designed to have fellowship. We're designed to do things together. And I love collaboration, love community. And so with a retreat, it is community, it's collaboration, it's fully being immersed in that moment where you don't have outside distractions, so you really can find out who you want to create, right? You don't find your identity, you create it, right? What are those areas? So this retreat that we have coming up in February is all about relationships. Your relationship with yourself, your relationship with those around you, and how you can really grow and expand in those relationships. And so I love retreats. Even if you don't come to my retreat, make retreating an intention for 2020, because you have real lasting life change when you immerse yourself in a community with people who are trying to achieve goals. Maybe not the same, but similar.
Absolutely, 100%. And one of the things that you talked about as we were getting ready to hop on this call is, you know, leaning into that present time. We all get excited. I definitely do this. I don't know if everyone does this, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this next audiobook I'm going to listen to, this podcast, like I'm constantly listening to this stuff. And what you've helped me do is space that out and take that quiet time to find myself in that.
That's right. So yeah, that's really important. And I think about that often because I'm an information junkie is what I would call it, right? I love information. I love learning. I love growing. I love change. But if we just continually put in and don't take time to process, grab those pieces of information that we learn that apply to us, and then decide what we're going to do with it, we have information that comes in, continual. But what actually changes for you? Really very minimal things will change. But if you take one piece of information from each thing you listen to, stop, like grab onto it, see how you feel with it, because what you take from it and I take from it may be very different. And then put that into action. We're more likely to achieve what we're looking to achieve by listening to that information to begin with.
Yep. And so I know that's part of what you do on the retreat, right? You help
It is.
walk people through these things and then give them time and space to.
Yeah, we do workshop style because I am a big believer in workshopping. So I don't want to just talk at people all day, right? You want to teach, like go into the heart, teach, learn, and then go out and take that time to really figure out what that means for you and how you want to grab onto that. And then you take that journal home, because when you get home, right, you have to learn how to go home and then implement it at home, because just because you went to a retreat, when you get home, that doesn't mean the world has changed, right? So we do teach you how do you apply this at home, because we all have to go home as well and continue to do these things that we learn at the retreat at home and implement that into our life. And so retreating is absolutely, we call it wellness vacations, to be honest, because it really is, there's a lot of vacation in it, right? We're on the beach, we're eating really healthy food, we're doing some fasting, we're exercising every day, we're meditating every day, we're teaching, we're learning, we're doing fun things. And you can also go like out and go shopping and surfing and stuff like that. So we really do call it more of like a wellness retreat or a wellness vacation. And I think there's a lot of retreats coming up. Like it seems to be something that we're seeing more and more of. And I would say, don't say one day, go to a retreat. You'll show up better for your family. Sonia, who is also part of Naturally Brave, who I think you've had on the show before, she always says, when I shift, my family shifts.
100%.
It's the truth. Yep.
100%. I think particularly as women, like we really are the center of the universe in our homes. And the best thing, hands down, that we can do for our family is be the best version of ourselves.
Right.
And I probably take that a little bit far in that anytime I'm doing something that's self-care or self-love for myself, I'm like, this isn't even for me, this is for them. But that's what I needed to do for a while in order to make that okay. That time away from them, that I was doing something that felt indulgent, whether it was my nails or getting a massage or going for a walk, meeting a friend or working out. It didn't feel right. And now I embrace that, because if I'm a good version of me, our whole home shifts.
That's right. It's so true. It's so true. We hold the space for our family. And when we're in a good space, the whole family is in a good space. So, it's hard to hear though, if I say to someone, if their household is chaotic, my first question is, well, what are you like? Where are you at emotionally? Right? And it's not to blame, it's to empower you that you get to change your whole household based on what you're doing for yourself.
It's pretty powerful. All right, great, Andrea. Well, any final message for everybody as people have wrapped up 2019 and getting ready for the next year? I definitely want people to put on their calendar for next year to remember this for the holidays, to say no and to slow down.
Power of saying yes. Yeah, the power of saying yes. So plan now what your holiday season is going to look like. And holiday season starts in October, right?
That's true, yeah.
It includes Halloween or the lack of Halloween. I'm not really a huge fan of Halloween, right? And some people love Halloween, and some people love it more than Christmas. So plan out what your holiday season is going to look like for next year, and really just start implementing it in your life. But I think my biggest message would be, give yourself some grace, right? Like you matter. Everyone, everybody matters. And so give yourself some grace and really just be present and feel that joy every single day, because we do have the option to feel joy every day, but we do have to put it on, right? I put joy on every day. I choose it every single day. And when I mess up, because I mess up every day, I give myself a lot of grace.
Love it. So important. Well, so good to see you.
So good being here. I love it that we're wearing hats together.
Of course. All right, Andrea. Well, thank you so much. And for real, if anyone can make it to your retreat or make it happen, like you said, put a retreat on your schedule for this year. You matter. Do something for yourself so that you do it, whether it's for your family or everybody around you at work or your friends. Taking care of yourself is so important. So thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.